often preached mock funerals for one another. Is that something that you all did back then?
Oh, we laugh and go. I guess it was our way of kind of letting it out. Someone said, well, if somebody comes and you land in the casket, what do you want them to say over you? So he's moving. One of the big things happened. I was coming across the courtyard that afternoon. He said, Jesse, you're late. He was an hour late. I said, Doc, you're late. So we're going to Reverend Kyle's home as if it were a big formal. We're going to his home and you don't even have on a shirt and tie. Dr. King, the prerequisite for eating is an appetite, not a tie. He said, you're crazy. We laughed. We played that way. Mm-hmm. And they looked at Ben and said, Ben, be sure to play my song.
Ben Branch.
Play my song, favorite personal on the saxophone tonight. He'd heard him play it. And he was shocked. So in that sense, we were on the way to eat. We were going to speak at the mass meeting that night. So he died with his shoes on. So many interviews about Dr. King, it's like every time we take the scalp off, the wound is still raw. We were in conversation. We were so ebullient, so excited, and killed, so cold-blooded, 39, and who was so full of love, was so hated, who was so committed to nonviolence, was killed so violently, and how they cut him off so quick, and he never had a chance. It hurts.
Raise your fists together. I am somebody. I may be poor, but I am somebody.
Red and yellow, brown, black, and white. We're all precious in God's sight. Everybody, somebody. Stop the violence. Save the children. Stop bullying. Save the children.
Hold your head high. Stick your chest out. You can make it. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive.
Good day, and welcome everybody to the National Rainbow Push Coalition. Won't you clap for yourselves one more time this morning? I am Africa Porter, your moderator for this morning. As we gather today, we are addressing the urgent crisis facing our beloved city of Chicago and to commemorate a pivotal moment in our nation's history, the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Chicago, known for its riches of cultures, beliefs, and traditions, stands at a crossroads, much like it did during Dr. King's time. As we commemorate the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., which occurred April the 4th, 1968, the urgency to address violence, both locally and globally, intensifies. Would you agree? Listen, the parallels between our city's struggles, the war in Gaza, and the crisis in Haiti underscore a global pattern of violence demanding our immediate response. Would you agree? So, while we pride ourselves on welcoming races, ethnicities, and nationalities from all over, the reality we face today is one of violence, inequality, and systemic failure. Daily, our streets bear witness to shootings and violence, with children like 16-year-old Davion Gibson tragically losing their lives. Do you all recall? Our education system flounders. Migrants seek safe lives in vain. And the voices of our communities are drowned out by the din of political inaction. Somebody say inaction. Amidst this, we remember Dr. King's legacy and the journey he shared with Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson. Oh, you can clap for Reverend Jackson in this building. A legacy that implores us not to stand idly by. Today, let us commit ourselves to fight for a Chicago and a world that embodies justice, safety, and equal opportunities for all. The stakes are clear, as Dr. King so profoundly stated: chaos or community. With this in mind, we stand united, ready to confront these challenges head on. For we are stronger together. Would you agree? And will not rest until there is equal justice for all. Welcome the Saturday Morning Forum, everybody. I want to introduce our esteemed panelists who are no strangers to any of us. Their work speaks for themselves, after of which we will hear from the Dwight McKee. Reverend Dr. Charlie Dates is the pastor of Salem and Progressive Baptist Churches. He is a panelist. Reverend Tanya Lozano Washington is the founder of Healthy Hood. She is a panelist. Reverend Marshall Hatch Jr. co-founded the Myalpha Redemption Project in 2017 to create a safe space for young men and women impacted by gun violence to heal and grow. He is a panelist. Listen, I'm super excited because I'm surrounded by pastors, y'all. So you know it's all good in here this morning. Won't you welcome Brother Dwight McKee?
Good morning. We find ourselves at a real crossroads this time in our history. Is that combination of domestic violence and what our kids are going through, shootings every day, violence in the schools, random shootings, robberies, banditry. We've really never been here personally before, but we also find ourselves at the crossroads of international violence. We watch as one country slay another country, kill thousands and thousands and thousands of children. We who are in the tradition and the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King, and many of us see ourselves in the same tradition that he was raised in, which was a Christian tradition. Our challenge is, how do we respond to this violence? Do we stand by idly and just watch it as if we have no vested interest because some of it is not happening to us? Or do we put a charge into ourselves to say, how do the people of God respond and help create the beloved community that Dr. King mandated us to do? We have today some of the most distinguished people who are involved in resolving those issues. And so I'm gonna let us hear what they have to say, how they are moving to resolve the violence issue.
Thank you so much. Pastor Tanya, please. You do a lot of work. You do a lot of work on the ground, literally. And I wanted her to go first. You all don't mind, right? We'll let the queen go first. And we want to make sure that we're connecting some dots here. This is the anniversary of Dr. King's assassination. Connect the dots for us with King's dream and the work that you do.
Thank you, thank you. First of all, I just want to acknowledge how honored I am always to be invited to speak here. I always get the call from Reverend Jeanette, be here at 9:30 with no other details. And also just want to say that I'm honored always to be here with the Jackson family and shouting out Reverend Jackson. I know he's not here right now, but he's always in my heart. Yes, give it up for the Reverend, the legend. I believe coalition is the beginning of anything, and the work that we have been doing at Healthy Hood has been building a citywide coalition called the Chicago Coalition for Intercommunalism. It's a citywide coalition of over 75 organizations. I think a lot of times we have a lot of people doing the work for violence prevention or violence intervention, but we're not talking to each other. I know we hear this all the time, but people work in silos, you know, and a lot of that has to do with the way that the nonprofit industrial complex is set up, right? There's a little bit of resources, then we become competition, so we don't talk to each other, so we can get the resources to do our work. Well, what happens with that too is that we start to get really specific on who we serve. but our communities are complex, just like we are as human beings. And we have to be comprehensive, and we can't be comprehensive alone. We gotta be comprehensive together. And so last summer, we launched a campaign called the Crime Drought Campaign. My brother Marshall here is a part of the coalition, a part of the campaign as well, where we literally physically meet people where they are. And we bring these activations where we inspire folks through bringing resources, right? Huey P. Newton says it best. Our people learn best by observation and participation, right? So it's not only that they have to see it, but they have to be a part of it. So as we are confronting and trying to alleviate them from being in survival mode, a scarcity mindset, while they're inspired in that moment, that's when we have them tap in to what they can contribute, right? And that looks like blurring the lines between the people being served and the servants of the people, right? I know we got 3 of my cadre members here who do that work. It's gotta be people in the community, not outsiders coming in. What we have is not a violence problem, we have a value problem, right? Like our people don't value themselves because they haven't been valued by a system that was literally created so that they could be in constant oppression. And so if we start to teach our people that it is an act of resistance to care about yourself, it's an act of resistance to care about your neighbor, then we can shift the culture. And the truth is, crime pays. Crime pays. Who does it pay? Public defenders, lawyers, judges, ambulance systems. So it's a whole system that profits off of crime. So if we're expecting the system to change, it's not gonna happen because that's how they make their money, right? And so if we could teach our young people, listen, you put money in their pocket, not in yours, right? So if we can teach them that it's an act of resistance to boycott crime, then we can starve the beast and put the power back in the people's hand and shift the culture where we don't rely on a savior to come and fix it. We can fix it ourselves. And that comes from practicing what we preach with each other. Because we hear a lot of organizations talk about restorative justice, but are they practicing that themselves? Are they practicing that at home with their children? Are they practicing how they deal with women, right? So we have to be able to, the people ain't gonna believe you. I'd rather see a sermon than hear one any day. You understand me?
Ashe, respect. Thank you so much for that. Listen, you talked about Pastor Marshall here. Why don't you give us some more, because some of your students and mentees are in the building. And I have always been so thoroughly impressed with the work when I see them in the community. Please connect the dots for us, Pastor Hatch, according to Dr. King and his dream and the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Africa, Pastor Dates, Pastor Lozano, my dear sister. Powerful, right? The most prolific organizer in the city, hands down, Tanya Lozano. And I can't say enough about the doc, Dwight McKee, who is the dean of the Ma'af Redemption Project. I'll talk a little bit more about his power on the ground. But before that, as was mentioned by Reverend Lozano, huge shout out to the Jackson family, to Rainbow Push, for exemplifying, for being the connective tissue, the bridge, literally, across generations in this intergenerational struggle. I'll start with my own kind of journey. You shouted out Reverend Jeanette Wilson, Auntie Jeanette Wilson. I was 15 years old and I was expelled from high school. And Reverend Jeanette Wilson was a part of the village that was the lifter of my head. So it wasn't, when we say Rainbow Push, we don't mean the building. We mean the people. Reverend Jeanette Wilson, Sister Bathsheba, Brother Gator, Reverend Jackson just came in. Like, these are Brother Youssef. Good to see you, Brother Youssef. 56 years ago, an assassin's bullet took out our king. As I understand it, he was slated to preach a sermon that Sunday called Why America May Go to Hell. I think that's what we're experiencing. And of course, King talked about the triple evils, one of them being militarism. Today we're talking about gun violence. In our communities, that's what militarism looks like when it trickles down. In his speech opposing the Vietnam War, King talked about a discussion he had with angry young black men in the North. He's also talking about the riots in Watts. And he said, how can I preach to them nonviolence when we live in a country that is the greatest purveyor of violence on the planet? And what that looks like now is that it's the greatest arms dealer on the planet, the greatest arms pusher on the planet. We talked about Haiti. 85% of the guns recovered in Haiti, which is under an arms embargo, which meant they don't manufacture guns. Guns aren't even supposed to be shipped there. 85% can be traced back to the American industry, gun industry. And so that's what militarism looks like. And of course, on the ground, you have military-style weapons literally being shipped in crates in neighborhoods to opposing groups. These conditions are a recipe for the disaster that we're facing, and we call it gun violence. But it's so much deeper than that. This is a spiritual problem, and it deserves a spiritual solution. Proverbs 11, verse 14, where there are no counselors, the people fail. But in the multitude of counselors, there's safety. There's safety. That's what the Ma'afa Redemption Project is trying to do. Brother Quentin Harris, raise your hand. Stand up, actually. This is Brother Quentin Harris, one of the young men. And Ma'afa is just a ministry at New Mount Pilgrim Missionary Baptist Church in West Garfield Park. And my father, who's no stranger to push, he coined the phrase Ma'afa Redemption Project. Ma'afa, we know, is Swahili for great catastrophe. It was coined by a sister named Marimba Ani, who used it in a book called Let the Circle Be Unbroken, about the strength of African spirituality. And you can see that in the best of the black church tradition. So Ma'afa Redemption Project is just an extension of us at our best. And we're trying to do our best on the ground at West Garfield Park. And again, delighted to be here and connected to these people, because there is a movement brewing on the ground in Chicago, and we need you all to be a part of it.
Thank you so much, Pastor Hatch. Reverend Dr. Dates, listen. Okay, you have one of the largest growing churches, plural, in the city. Young people are running to come to your congregations, plural. Please connect the dots for us. This is the anniversary of the assassination of Dr. King.
You want me to do this in 2 minutes? I feel like he gave me two minutes. You're going to have to give me a little bit more. All right. Thank you.
We'll give you more time.
Thank you, Africa.
Thank you so
and
much.
It is my honor to be here today with each of you. I couldn't help but listen to Brother Marshall Hatch Jr.
Oh, yeah, he
felt
did
like
that.
I was listening to his daddy. That is a gift, brother, the way that God has allowed that oil to flow from one generation to the next. Reverend Tanya, pleasure to meet you. And of course, our legend is here. We talked about Reverend Jackson. What an honor it is to be in this company today. If I can, I'll pick up from where Pastor Hatch Jr. Started. It is a spiritual problem. I think perhaps my contribution to this conversation is to anchor theologically where I think Dr. King was. We call him Dr. King, and he was earned PhD, but he's the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who grew up as the son of a Black Baptist preacher, the grandson of a Black Baptist preacher on his mother's side, who embodied the ethics of Jesus Christ. Of course, he had his own theological and intellectual struggles, but But I think when you listen to him, particularly the last Easter sermon he preached, there was this kind of unfading, enduring hope that he possessed in the face of despair. And regardless of what we do on the streets, if there is not first an unfading, enduring hope, then the circumstances surrounding us will kill us. And I have to ask, where did that unfading, enduring hope originate? In Jesus Christ. The resurrection itself is a proclamation of resistance, that neither oppression nor pain and even death itself can stop the plan of God. Dr. King was not magnificent because he was intellectual. He was magnificent because he had been transformed. That he carried a burden. And I'll be honest with you, so much of what we are missing in society, and I think in younger generations like my own, is the absence of a burden. It is something that that goes beyond celebrity and economy and fame. There is this, I live for something beyond myself. I can hear Dr. King saying that if I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with a word or song, then my living will not be in vain. Oh, that black people in Chicago had a burden, that we live beyond ourselves. And the way to accomplish the relief of the tragedies that we face, and I think Paul writes this in Romans 12, because I do think it is theological before it is anthropological, that there has to be a renewing of the mind, that there has to be a transformation that takes place. If there is not first a renewing of the mind, then no higher motivation will keep us from oppressing the people who've oppressed us. But once we are transformed, once we are renewed, particularly in the way that we think and in the way that we behave, then once God grants us all that we're after, we will have a beloved community. But I'm afraid we're trying to accomplish something without having the heart and the mind renewed first. And so I'm here today as a Christian preacher, like Dr. King was, to say, once we get our agenda together and all of that, if you've not been changed in heart and mind, then you will just be a more refined sinner, a more educated, polished terrorist. But if your heart gets changed, then you get liberated at the heart first.
Dwight?
Let me give you some historic context for what we're talking about. The Europeans were barbarians, 12 barbaric tribes. Until guys like St. Patrick came along and gave the Irish the gospel. It civilized them. The Arabs were barbarians until the prophet came along and tied them into Allah. And it civilized them. That you have to have a connection with the divine that can challenge you, can edify you, can root you into the values beyond yourself. And one of the things that's happening in our community is the disconnection between that spiritual grounding of our ancestors' generation, who, in spite of all that they have been abused and the things that they had gone through, rooted them in the gospel that made them love beyond themselves. That was the tradition Dr. King came out of, is that nobody understood how this man, who could be so many other places, doing so many other things in his own interests, was grounded in a value that said that my primary responsibility is to my neighbor. My primary responsibility is to those who God has put me in charge of, to say, here is what the profound life looks like. This is what a beloved community looks like. That in spite of all of the evil that they do to us, that we're going to love our neighbor and not going to inflict the violence on them that they inflict on us. That's a value that don't exist in the natural. That has to be a divine imposition on your spirit. And so what our kids are lacking is that connectivity, because we have allowed BET to replace BTU. And those values that we were locked in and we were raised in, they have no connectivity to. And so they live a barbaric life because they have no spiritual connection to the Spirit of the living God that made them and who they would be responsible to. And so what we try to do in Ma'afa is we try to root them spiritually. First thing that he did when he came in, who was a drug dealer. A drug dealer found the gospel, became a minister, and got baptized and rerouted his values. And now the kids that he used to sell drugs to, he saves. That's a spiritual transformation. Our kids have to be transformed spiritually first.
Brother Dwight.
Problem is not social, it's spiritual.
Brother
So the
Dwight.
solution is spiritual.
No, that's right on point. Brother Yusuf has given me permission. Quentin, can I have you? I need you to be the example because we have to be real about these conversations. Will you allow me to be real today? Yes. Can you give a testimony for us, please?
Yes, how y'all doing today? Praise God. I'm Quentin Harris. I'm from the west side of Chicago, born and raised. I went to Robert Emmett Academy on Madison Central. My grandma raised me, my mother, my aunties. I was raised by women. You know, they did the best they could, but you know, coming up on the west side, it was, you know, you can't be what you can't see. So what I seen at an early age is what I wanted to be. I still was okay academically. I went on ahead and got accepted to Lane Tech. But when I was going to school, I didn't have the right male figure to interpret what I was doing and what I could do and my potential and what I could be. So I got involved in the streets and I was doing stuff that, you know, I wasn't supposed to be doing. And praise God that I was able to get away from that. And I'm with Ma'afa Redemption Project now. And what we do, we meet guys where they at, and we help them with different things, financial literacy, drug education, on-the-job training. But we a ministry first, so the first thing we teaching is get a relationship with God. And that's what helped me overcome all the things that I've been through. It's when I sat down and I surrendered to the Lord, and I was able to hear the voice of God now. Now I'm able to see, and he got this revealing stuff to me in my life, and now I can help my younger brothers do the same thing. And I'm an example. So we all talk about how we change things, and we got to lead by being an example. So all the brothers who think that they couldn't stop doing what I used to do and think it's too hard to get out, now I'm a living sacrifice. I'm a walking testimony. You can do it. You can do it, everybody.
We appreciate you. Thank you for sharing your testimony. Listen, we are for a break. Can you all please keep clapping and please donate? We need your support. Do you want to support young brothers like him? We want to support this, right? We're up for a break. Thank you so much.
There's a young lady that I'm going to bring up to you in just a second who does the work. She's out there working every day in the spirit of Harold Washington and is doing a phenomenal job. So I bring to you Sister Africa Porter.
Sister Africa Porter.
Community actionist Africa Porter.
Africa Porter are here to talk about it.
It is making us Chicago proud on this Thursday. The work is by local artist Rahman Static. It honors Africa Porter, a Chicago native, and the Emmy Award-winning producer of the documentary Chicago at the Crossroads.
Africa has done an amazing job. Africa has done an amazing job. You don't have to, older woman, go to Africa to meet Africa. You can meet Africa right here on 63rd and Cottage. Make some noise for Africa.
One of my hashtags is we are our own solution. And I say that because everyone can do something. You understand? So whether you're an educator, you're a mentor, and I think it starts with the simple act of just speaking to one another. Something as simple as that smiling when you see someone, another human being.
Police are frustrated. One Hyde Park woman is taking action, recruiting men to join her personal efforts to stop it.
On Monday, a 68-year-old grandmother was carjacked in the Chicago lawn community. 2 weeks ago, the victim was an off-duty female Chicago police officer.
My favorite hashtag is we are our own solution. It's only gonna happen because we make it happen. Good morning, we're thankful. We are doing it for none other than T.O. See, Mayor Washington was known for many things. The city council wars, charismatic debates, eloquent speaker. They were second to none. He was able to galvanize the spirit of Chicago into a major movement for change in Chicago. My father quoted the phrase, the man, the moment, the movement, because of that spirit and that energy of Harold Washington.
She is a woman that's bettering this culture out here.
They instilled a lot in me and my siblings. I'm the youngest of 6. I think my oldest sister is here, Pastor Julie. And it was just embedded in us, you know, to be clear on who we are and to understand the conditions and to be about the solution. So I'm just grateful. I only have a minute, only 60 seconds in it. Forced upon me, can't refuse it. I didn't seek it, I didn't choose it. But it's up to me to use it. Give account if I abuse it. Just a tiny little minute, but eternity is in it. Love y'all and thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us today. This is a wonderful program, and we hope that you're enjoying it. I ask that you go to RainbowPush.org and become a member and donate to the best of your ability. You know, this program costs, but could you imagine the cost without it? So we're asking for you to become a partner, to become a member of the Rainbow Push Coalition today and donate to the best of your ability. We're looking forward to providing you with more critical content for a time such as this. Go to RainbowPush.org or just scan the QR code at the bottom of the screen. And we'll see you next time at the Rainbow Push Coalition.
Welcome back. Thank you all for being here. This is the National Rainbow Push Coalition. This is the anniversary of the assassination of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Thank you for that. We cannot have this conversation without talking about root causes. As much as I like to coin the phrase solutions only, that is the theme for my show, we have to talk about root causes. Talk to us, please, about how you all understand why we are talking about this years after King's dream. We're still talking about this. Root causes.
What do we say when we say no justice?
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
The inverse is true. There's no peace because there's no justice. One of the things that I've learned the past 7 years about what maybe the deepest root cause is when it comes to retaliatory violence, right? Cain killing Abel, is something called the homicide clearance rate. That's the rate at which homicides are actually cleared or solved. In neighborhoods like ours, it's as low as 17%, which means 83% of the time, the murderers get away with it. And not just get away with it, gloat about it on social media. So part of it is holding social media companies accountable. Part of it is holding the music industry accountable, because we actually incentivize this retaliatory violence in our culture through our music, what we listen to. But back to this homicide clearance rate, if I don't believe the police are gonna solve the problem, I'm gonna just take matters into my own hands. This is extra legal violence. And as Dwight McKee said, this is a human thing. I got a brother who I love very much. If somebody kills him and gloats about it, I'm a Christian too, Pastor. But I don't know what I'm gonna do, honestly. And so we have to come back to these conditions that have been created. And what we have to build on the ground is countercultural movements, right? And so, what's the brother's name in the nation who just came out with Golden Child? We have to promote Golden Child, other artists and rappers who have a positive message and uplift them so that we can start incentivizing the right messages.
Ashe. Reverend Lozano, same question.
I agree with Reverend Marshall, right? And he's speaking about all of these aspects that are ultimately culture, right? Culture, and this is what I spoke about when I first spoke today. We have become a culture of liars. A lot of these brothers and sisters on the radio, they rapping about stuff that ain't even true. They not even shooting nobody. They not even in the streets. They just rapping about it because that's what it's been. That's what sells. We live within a system of capitalism where we put profits over people, right? And a show of hands, how many of you can sleep for 10 or 12 hours and still wake up exhausted? We have been programmed to believe we are machines because the system is profiting from all of these different aspects. If we're not addressing these lies, if we're not inserting truth and creating truth tellers and supporting those who are in these spaces that are telling the truth, then we're just doing the work of the system for it, right? I think so much about like all of these revolutionaries that passed and or that were assassinated, and the biggest threat was that they were telling the truth. That's right. So we have to be able to tell the truth, right? And that looks like being honest about a system that was created by white men with guns to protect their assets that doesn't serve us, and put the power back in the people's hands. Yeah, I mean, that's what I would say. It's a cultural thing, right? And we can continue to buy into the lies, or we can start to really speak the truth and shift the culture ourselves.
Thank you so much, Ashe. Listen, Congressman Jonathan Jackson has joined us. Why don't you all clap for Congressman Jonathan Jackson? We appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us. Please share about this topic, the assassination of Dr. King. We're connecting dots today.
Well, thank you so much, Africa. Thank you, Dad, for having stood on the balcony with Reverend Martin Luther King. Thank you for having carried that mantle all these many years, day in, day out, season out, never giving up. That's a true testament. And thank you for having me to be a part of this esteemed panel. And to all of you that have come out here today, there are many places you could have been. You could have sat at home and watched it, but you chose to come out here, which reaffirms your commitment, not towards fixing the blame, but fixing the problem. And I'd like to be associated with remarks of Brother Dwight McKee. But very specifically, this violence starts at the top. What I see in Washington every week, people that have 32 teeth, smile, go to the gym, very affable, eating yogurt, watching their diet. But if you look at what they sign their name on, what they vote on, it's violent. And to quote my father, oftentimes we get caught talking about the sin within, Pastor Dates, on Sunday morning, but we don't fundamentally address the sin we live in that's coming from the culture, to your point. It is economic violence and a taxation policy that strips our schools of gym teachers. It's economic violence that strips our schools of librarians. It's economic violence that strips our children of counselors. When there was a shooting, unfortunately, in Highland Park, people came from around the country to offer remedy and aid and trauma guidance for the children that had suffered that shooting. Well, that shooting happens every weekend in Chicago on the south and the west side. These children are traumatized. When we look at very specifically money for all these other countries, but now they have weaponized and made it illegal to talk about reading books by black authors, and we say nothing. Now when we look at talking about in that last $1.2 trillion budget that went through 2 weeks ago that I voted no for because there was no money in there for humanitarian relief for the United Nations rescue workers in Gaza, but we want to give more missiles and not meals to people on the other side of conflict. It's simply wrong. In closing, what I want to say is we have to confront it at the highest level. Just go back to 2008. There was socialism, the bailout of the rich for the mortgages, and there was rugged individual capitalism for those that have been preyed upon by those that issued the mortgages, and there's been no relief, and now we have this explosion in rents because the rich have gotten richer. That's a problem. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the activist that's going to correct, like Newton's law on the third rail. In order to stop a body from going downward, you have to have an external force to act upon it. We don't need more of us in office to do the same thing. We need more of us that put us in office to keep holding us accountable to do the right thing. Thank you so much. But there's a violent culture, and the children are reading the cues. My youngest child is now 22 years of age. Ever since he's been born, our nation's been at war. Our children have never seen, there's a generation now that has not seen a day of our nation not being at war. And when we talk about $102 billion for Ukrainian defense, for Israeli defense, for Taiwanese defense, for aid to Gaza, and you expect me to tell the children on the south side, the west side, the north side of Chicago and every urban America, I cannot use the word black, I cannot use the word African American. We can't specifically put the pain to where the problem has the most been infected historically. That's a problem. So we have to be very specific in our advocacy for our community, because the truth is, when our community does well, the nation does well.
That's right. Thank you, Congressman Jackson. Thank you so much. Woo. Reverend Charlie Dates. What you got? Come on.
I want to cast my vote for Congressman Jackson. Is it election time? So we can do more than one thing at a time. My burden in this conversation centers around our children. My wife tells me all the time that our children are not a distraction from our important work. They are our most important work. And I think that subtle rebuke needs to be levied upon our own community right now. That there's a sense in which a more premium amount of attention needs to be levied on our children. I think about listening to Congressman Jackson talk about his father. I look at Brett Hatch, knowing who his father is. That there, I think, at least from the church's side right now, has to be an encouragement given to fathers to engage the hearts and the lives of their children. This summer, we're doing a Black Fathers Summit in June aimed at encouraging and equipping dads. This is no shot at moms or anything like that. This is just a sense of my burden. Aimed at equipping dads to have 6 critical conversations with their children. Because the reality is, the Bible says foolishness is bound in the heart of a child. But it is a responsible, caring, firm adult who's able to drive it out. Fish swim because it's in their nature to swim. Birds fly because it's in their nature to fly. Kids do foolish things because it's in our nature to do foolish things. But we can at the home level, this is in addition to everything we just heard the congressman say, but we can at the home level so structure the upbringing of our children where they do respond to authority, where they do have a desire for something great. Jesus said it this way, and I'll conclude here. The Bible says that he looked out upon the crowds and he was moved with compassion because they were like sheep without a shepherd. The language of the text is both that they had been sinned against and that they struggled themselves with sin. We got to do both. We have to break down the structures that are sinning against us, and then we've got to enable our kids to be able to, like my brother said, resist the lure itself in the streets. And when we do that, I think we'll build men that our women can marry. We will grow boys that can grow families and people that are responsible. So while I don't want to write off a whole generation, I do want to say these little jokers, 3rd grade and under, they need our most precious love, care, and attention right now.
Thank you so much. Listen, Sankofa teaches us to look back so we can look forward. Do y'all understand, Sankofa family? Somebody in this room is thinking right now, what can I do? How can I be better today than I was yesterday? What organization can I join? What can I do more of as a mother, as a parent, as a wife, as a father, as a community resident? With the Sankofa that you all have in you, where was that moment for you, the Sankofa moment that you said, this is what I need to do for someone in this room that needs that Sankofa energy? Yes, sir.
If I could step in on that just for a moment and take the first step. You need to go to school. Let me break down something very carefully. Some people say, I need mentorship, mentor my child, mentor. Don't go too far on that. There's such thing as school where you can take a class. Don't let that become the new hustle where you think you can get any one of a person's time. That's what your mother and fathers are for. The scalable solution is you go to school. And then while you're in there, you find the things that interest you. That's very important. Second thing is go to Sunday school. And then you should go to church. 2 separate programs. And I would encourage you to come to a Rainbow Push where you have civic school. Our children don't know how to resist. This conversation is an adult conversation that our children have to have. One of the things that saddens me, that was my Sankofa moment, if you will, I went to business school and I was trying to do everything for myself and do the best I could with my life. I wanted to be an entrepreneur, not for luxury, but for security. I don't want to go someplace and somebody tells me I'm fired and I can't feed my family. So that's a fear I have. I got a phobia of that I want to be free. So, and if I am on the job, I'm going to work the best so that if they have to fire somebody, it's not me first, that I'm irreplaceable. In conclusion, you have to have a civics education. Don't hide racism and discrimination from your child. It's okay to talk about it. Our children are internalizing what they feel is going on that we don't discuss with them. They're in a hostile environment. They don't understand the prejudice and things that are written into the law. I was at a building last night where for Horatio Alger's Rags to Riches, 77 years of people that have pulled themselves up. And as I looked around that room and I saw Clarence Thomas in there, and I saw Herschel Walker, and I saw Tim Scott, and this place is called DAR, and I went outside, Reverend Dates, to look at the name. I'm like, what is DAR? I gotta watch these acronyms. Daughters of the American Revolution. Good old Confederate organization. I go from one extreme in a day to the other. Clarence Thomas couldn't have been happier, laughing, affable, shaking everybody's hand, but giving a room full of black folks, and then he's gonna vote against you. Ladies and gentlemen, my Sankofa moment happened right here at Rainbow Push, really after I had children. I grew up with safety and security, knowing that if I had a problem, I could call my Father, not just in heaven, but right here on earth. I cannot explain to you how whole that makes me feel, because I've never grown up with fear. I just need to get to the phone, because as soon as my father finds out, he's coming over here. Then I had to realize, what kind of man am I? My children aren't going to always be able to look to their grandfather. When am I going to step up? And I put that on every man in here. Why don't you be that person? And that was a Sankofa moment for me when I got put in the back of a police car on 26th Street going to build some wireless stores, and they said, what are 3 black men doing in a car in an Acura that's going to build out wireless stores? They said, this is a Mexican neighborhood. Why are you coming over here building stores? I said, the whole world comes into the black community every week to build stores, and you never ask them. So I want to be like my father. It was a Sankofa moment, and I respect all of the men up here for having that sort of respect for your fathers. Mothers do a great thing, but the father is the eagle that you have to look up to, and our culture takes it away from us. So I come here every week. People say, what's it like to be a congressman? I said, I don't know. I'm more like a man in the Congress. I've been God's child for a long time.
We're up for a break. Thank you so much, Congressman Jonathan Jackson. Donate today. Thank you so much.
To be a world leader in promoting educational excellence and equity so that every child is guaranteed an opportunity to receive a quality education. We've awarded more than $10 million in scholarships year to date. And you can help young people achieve a higher education by donating to Push Excel right now. Wherever you are, you can support our students as we keep pushing for you.
Attention high school seniors and college freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. If you are in need of financial assistance, Push for Excellence offers a variety of scholarships for which you may be eligible to apply. Whether it's the Jesse Jackson Fellows Toyota Scholarship, the Cirillo McSween New York Life Scholarship, or the Oralee Sanders Scholarship, Push for Excellence strives to offer something for everyone. Here are just a few of our scholarship recipients.
Hello everyone viewing, my name is Chidi Osakwe.
Dominique Davis.
Julian Jones.
China Mazum.
Miles Chairman.
Jalen Clark.
Marcus Anderson.
Jaden Reed.
Kari Young.
I'm Megan Chu and I'm a Cirillo McSween Scholar.
I want to take this opportunity to thank Reverend Jesse Jackson for all his support of my college education.
Thank you for all of Toyota for helping with Reverend Jackson with the scholarship as well.
I just want to take the opportunity to say thank you to Reverend Jesse Jackson for helping to make the scholarship opportunity possible for me.
As appreciative as I was before, I'm even more grateful now having received this scholarship.
Not only has it helped me out financially with paying for tuition, but it has also awarded me the opportunity to learn more about the Rainbow Push Coalition and their different initiatives in the African American community.
I'd like to say thank you to Reverend Jesse Jackson and the Rainbow Push Coalition for all the generosity and support that they've shown me throughout my undergraduate career and for the opportunity to pursue higher education.
For more information, please visit our website at www.pushexcel.org and click on the word scholarships. Thank you, and keep hope alive.
We are at the National Rainbow Push Coalition headquarters. We are welcomed by none other than the Reverend Jeanette Wilson. Please connect some dots for us.
Well, I think it's important that we understand the context of all of these young people that are on the program, and I can say they're all young. Africa is Dr. John Porter, one of our AME pastors. And then Emma Lozano and Slim Coleman, birthday daughter, the most activist young lady on the planet Earth. She has been organizing teenagers from high school students to go door to door and help parents get health care, taking health assessments. She has the largest church on the, southwest side. They have vendors downstairs because she's helping young people who want to be entrepreneurs. She has a very eclectic service, Youssef. All kinds of music. And it's the most spiritual place, Reverend, I've been, because they come on Sunday to report on the work Monday through Friday. So I'm so glad that Tanya's here. And then you know Marshall Hatch, 3 generations of Hatches. And so all of them grew up in the spiritual context. And Reverend Jackson wanted you all to know that when you talk about violence, when you talk about this issue of violence, Haiti is on our radar. We have, and I think you talked about the guns that flow from here to Haiti. Our people in Haiti are really under siege, like many of our neighborhoods in the city of Chicago. So I'm so glad you all are here. Thank you so much for this program and what you all are doing off the show in each one of your respective churches and neighborhoods. Give them a round of applause.
So much. Reverend Lozano, your Sankofa moment, please.
I always say, well, probably like a lot of people up here, we call ourselves struggle kids, right? Because we were born into the struggle. My father, Slim Coleman, who is in his last days right now, sending him prayers. We're about to move him into hospice. And my mother, Emma Lozano, are great, just incredible activists and organizers. And my father taught me real young through his work with Chairman Fred Sr. that we have to organize locally because the large is a reflection of the small. And if we begin the work with the people right around us, then we can see that reflected in the large. I never had like an epiphany moment, right? When I was a child, it felt very much like a burden. I just wanted to play. I didn't want to be pulled in a wagon at every protest, you know, all of those things. It was when I got to high school, when Elvira Arellano took sanctuary in our church. She was ordered to be deported, if you remember this. It was international news because this small Mexican woman, single mother, was able to stand up to Homeland Security of the greatest country, most powerful country in the world. We had a small storefront church on Division Street in Humboldt Park. Reverend Jackson came to support us in that moment and spoke on behalf of our people. And I just remember thinking there was nothing too powerful for the people. We could do anything if we came together. And with the Spirit of God and the protection that the church provided, we were able to save this woman, right? And she was able to be an inspiration to an entire population of people that then was fueling these mega marches all over the city of Chicago, people standing up to the oppression, right, that was happening to them. So that was, I would say, the moment where I realized that, you know, we could do so much together.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Pastor Hatch, can you give us your 30-second Sankofa moment, please?
30 seconds? Okay, real quick. Sankofa is a spiritual process, right? As Sister Africa mentioned, comes from a principle. It's not wrong to go back, retrieve the ancient landmarks in order to move forward. So for me, I just had one 2 weeks ago during my birthday. I turned 36. And I woke up in the morning with my 3-time great-grandfather on my mind. His name was Jack Hatch, who joined the Union Army in March of 1863 to fight for his people. And he was one of 180,000 black soldiers who saved the country from itself. So this country needs a Sankofa moment. And we need to be who we've always been, the messianic presence in this country.
I say, thank you. Pastor Charlie Dates, close us out.
Yeah, I would say, I think we need a revival, a Chicago revival of Operation Push. And here's why. I think we need an umbrella coalition organization. I've said this before, and it bears repeating now, that there has to be an organization with credibility and integrity under which all of us can link our varying arms of the movement. And so by being here today, all of you have done something special and important. I think from this will come better organization for us to create an agenda by which we can put all of our muscle behind and see our people flourish. That, I think, will be a Chicago Sankofa moment. I think God has given us already what we need. It's a matter of us making it happen.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate you all much. Thank you.